Welcome everyone. I've been meaning to make this video for a long time. In this game, we have International Master Ryo Chen, a local prodigy in the Houston, Texas area. He was rated 2415 USCF and very strong FIDE level. And I'm John Hendrick, rated 2137. This game is one of the best games I've played. I've drawn a Grandmaster and I've drew an International Master. This is my first victory over an International Master player, and studying during the pandemic with various coaches has been inspiring, and this game has given me some confidence, so I've got to keep putting my nose to the grindstone, as it were, and keep working on my chess. Well, I can't wait to show you this game. I had been working with a coach from India named Vish from Grassroots India. So shout out to him, and he helped me prepare this opening. The game starts with e4, and I'm black. I played e5. First time I've been implementing e5. You know, this was a new opening. I used to play Caro Kann throughout the pandemic, and also the Sicilian. So this is new. Knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, and we have the Ruy Lopez. This a6 move is the main line, and they generally back off. If bishop takes c6, we have some lines where you can just you can win the pawn back, like this, or queen d4. You can win the pawn back. So after bishop a4, I played d6. This is the Steinitz deferred. Interesting to note, if you play d6 too early and then you go for this line where you play a6, they could just chop your knight now and then go ahead and I meant to go queen takes queen, and they can go ahead and win a pawn, and really strong. They're probably winning the game here. Okay, so with the modern Steinitz, you already have a6 included. So with a6 included, and if they tried to play let's say d4 now, you have interesting variations. Now you don't have to worry, because you can push the bishop away first, or so you could push the bishop away. Is that the right line? Yeah, and then this, and there's a really fun trap in this variation. They're supposed to sacrifice the pawn here with c3, but if they take here, can you guys find the way to trap this bishop? I'll give you a second. Pause the video. It's really cool. Yeah, it's c5, and if the queen moves back, you just go forward and trap the bishop, or if it goes back anywhere, you just trap the bishop. So the best chance looks like some people might play this move and go for the fork, attacking both the king and the rook, but bishop e6, and the queen is going to guard the rook. And also queen d4 looks like it's great for white, but then bishop e6 defends the checkmate threat. We had a checkmate threat right here, and bishop e6 defends it, and now we have check. Bishop blocks, queen back here. It looks like a draw, but we stopped the checkmate threat this time with a pawn push, and notice that everything's defended for black, and this bishop's still trapped. So that's a very common trap. It's really fun to play. Going back to the game, Ryo played c3, and I played knight f6, attacking his pawn, and he played d4, and I went ahead and played b5 to get out of the pin. He brought his bishop back, and it's urgent. He's about to play knight g5 and threaten my pawn, so it's urgent that I play bishop e7. So if he plays knight g5, I could just castle. He castled himself, I castled. And we've transposed to a mainline Ruy Lopez, but he said after the game he's only used to the pawn being on d3, not these d4 lines. So this modern Steinitz transposed into the main old school lines of the Ruy Lopez, which he didn't know that well. He played h3 here, an understandable move preventing the pin. I played rook e8, and I'm inviting knight g5, and he played it. And the idea is I'm comfortable with him going back and forth and taking the draw against the stronger player. And so after rook f8, he didn't go back here. This is probably the strongest move, and I would have just repeated moves. And my idea is to play bishop f8, pawn g6, pawn h6, and maybe make a fortress on my king's side. So after rook e1 that he played, I played knight a5, targeting the bishop. He played bishop c2, and I played c5. Ignore the bell sound. It's just my dog who wants out. Don't worry, I will let her out to go pee in a second. So after this move, c5, I was happy with this endgame. Looks nice for black, doesn't it? And after going back to the main line, he played d5, and I got pretty creative with this move knight c4. I figured my knight, in a lot of lines, it's supposed to go from b7 to d8, and then later you play knight to f7 after you push your f pawn, and the other knight goes to g7 after you push the g pawn. So that the black knights end up, in most lines, they can end up on these two squares. So they can end up on these two squares and have a little fortress. But I decided to do something different. I played knight c4. And after white played a4, white's starting to take the pawn. And after white takes the pawn, I'm going to lose material, so I have to defend. So I played knight back to defend my rook. So if pawn takes pawn, we'll just trade pieces, and I'll be okay. Get my knight back in the game later. So after a5, my knight went back to b7. There was some really cool variations with knight c4 that I missed, actually. White could have played b4, and I could do this crazy move, and I didn't have the energy or time to calculate all this, but this would have been a cool variation. It's all forced, and at the end, can you find black's move that wins the game? Yeah, it's queen g5, attacking the rook also, and threatening bishop takes, and the queen's going to be under attack. So black's winning here. I didn't see all that, but in this situation, I guess, yeah, he could have actually just he could have played knight takes h7 here, yeah, and this might have, even though I'm supposed to be better here, this is very complicated. Not queen d4, but yeah, the queen would retreat, and the position is actually still really complicated and kind of unclear. So back to knight bd7. After a5, I just moved my knight back, and I felt like I was doing fine here. I didn't need to go for any tactics, so I played my knight back to b7. And after knight b7, he played b3. Kind of slow, though. Maybe b4 was better. So he played b3. I played knight to e8. My bishop and queen are battery attacking the knight. So he just goes back, and I played g6. The idea is knight g7, and trying to play f5 with king's Indian defense type of structure, actually. Okay, so knight d2. And, if bishop here, I don't mind self-pinning my knight to the rook, because I'm just going to get to play f5 anyway. Maybe move my rook over if necessary. So knight bd2, and I played knight g7, fianchettoing my knight, which is always fun. Usually you fianchetto the bishop. So now knight f1, he's maneuvering his knight, and I played the pawn break f5. And after a very long think, he went ahead and took, but there's not a lot to do here, because black will undermine the center. So he took it, but I took back with the pawn, and now we have this structure where I have these three pawns just totally controlling the center and a flexible attacking chances against this king. So after g takes f5, he played knight g3. I attacked his knight with e4. It goes back to h2, and I played bishop f6, hitting that pawn. He played knight e2 to defend it, and I played knight e5. My idea was to get the knight over to the king side. Knight g6 to h4. He played bishop f4. I hit his bishop. It goes back here, and like you can see by the arrows, there's some ideas. Rook a7. There's knight h5 ideas. So in the game, I tried this interesting attack, knight h4. My idea is queen over to g6 with threats on his king side. But he stopped me with g3. I don't have time to sacrifice a piece here, so I went back, and he played, after another long think, he played f3. It looks like f3 kind of allowed me to have a decisive attack. Maybe he could have played perhaps f4 instead. In that case, I could play h5 and maybe build up an attack. He played f3, and this is where, after not very much thinking, I played a really nice breakthrough. And just use your intuition, or you can calculate. I didn't really calculate here, I have to confess. I used my intuition, and I played. Another insight about me is I'm a very intuitive player. If the position has variations that are just mind-numbingly complex, I can filter through them, is what I learned about myself. So paradoxically or oddly, if the position requires too much calculation, I'm actually good with my strong intuition. If the position requires just enough calculation, I can go wrong easily, and opponents who can out-calculate me usually fare better than me. So this position is like Dark Forest McKeltal, beyond the pale, calculation. So pause the video, and what did black play? I played, first I played bishop e5, and then he played king g2 after a long think. This wasn't the beginning of the breakthrough. He could have played f4, but then I go back, and again with the h5, h4 ideas, or b4 ideas, and black has a nice advantage. And so he played king g2. And now, yeah, this is where I really want you to figure out black's best move. And a lot of intuitive players, and even people who are good at calculating and intuition, find the move here. Yes, if you found f4 crashing through on the king side, you're correct. I mean, you're sacrificing lots of pawns, but your knights are going to enter the battle, your queen's going to enter the battle, the bishop's going to enter the battle. And so he responded with knight takes f4. If g4, my knight comes in with some decisive effect, and I could play e3, and yeah, his bishop doesn't look good. My pawns look wonderful. I could also play this variation. He's just down a piece. Just his knight is actually literally trapped. No, he can go. It can go this way. Excuse me. And yeah, but my pawns are there. I can break through over here on the king side. Not looking good. So he plays knight takes f4, and I played bishop takes f4. I learned that knights are often stronger than bishops, and knights and queens can work together. Pro tip for you guys who don't know that: knights and queens work better than bishops and queens typically in most attacks. He played g takes f4, and then I played queen h4. Just a simple move. He has only one way to defend the pawn. What do you think he did? He didn't actually defend the pawn, but if he had defended it, I had prepared knight h5. My queen's about to enter this square, and the game is pretty much over. Decisive advantage for black. Just too many, too much like extra piece, and his king's under attack. So back to the game. Bishop takes f4, queen h4. He played f takes e4. Again, after thinking for a while, I played. I could have played various moves like queen takes or bishop takes, but I just chose knight takes. And then after he played bishop takes, I hit him with an in-between move, just bishop takes h3, and I had calculated this out pretty well. I then played rook takes f4. The threat is rook f2 and mating ideas. It's getting really brutal. Rook e3, an attempt to defend here, and rook e3 was his final mistake. There's a checkmate in 3 moves, and it took me, my teammates were like looking at me like, why isn't he not playing this? And it took me like 7 or 8 minutes, and luckily I had 15, 20 minutes extra on my clock before time control. So what is the mate in 3, guys? Go ahead and pause, and yeah, if you saw bishop g2 check, you're correct. It's a triangle mate. It ends in a triangle mate. What I had hallucinated was, yeah, he took it, but I hallucinated that after queen f2, his king escapes to h1, but his king can't go over to the left here because my bishop's there. So I had a little hallucination. So he has to take it, and after I played rook f2, and then he resigned because wherever his king moves, it's going to be mate. I like this mate because it's the triangle mate. Well, thanks for joining me in my game with Ryo Chen. I hope to keep studying with all my coaches, and I hope to keep improving even as a 45-year-old. I don't have a lot of time before you face issues like mental decline, but I'm going to try to keep my body in shape and try to keep studying chess, as well as keeping my family strong and growing a chess company. I have a daughter and a wife, and it's a challenge, but it's fun, and that's life. And yeah, thanks for joining me on this journey. Feel free to like the video, leave some comments if you have any questions, and subscribe if you haven't. Have a great day, everyone.